My 365 Podcasts with me, Pete Cohen. Hey everyone, before we start the podcast today, feel free to head over to my365.me. That's mi365.me and find out for yourself how you can take advantage of 365 days of free life coaching with me to take you and your life to a whole new level. Thanks for listening and enjoy the podcast. Hi, it's Pete Cohen and welcome to my 365 podcast. On today's podcast, I'm going to be talking to you about the all-important subject of willpower. Having worked in the field of self-help and personal development for so many years, this is an area that so many people say to me, Pete, you know what? I just didn't have the willpower. I wanted to write the book. I wanted to lose weight, but I just didn't have the willpower. My dad always said to me when I grew up, where there's a will, there is always a way. But for so many people, they don't have a way because they don't have a big enough why. So if you can think about the word willpower and almost change it into why power, if you're looking at the secret of so many people's success, they had a bigger why than you. It's really important to get your head around that. So just for a moment, just be curious as to all of the people that you know in the world. And think about some of the people who are hugely successful, people who have done incredible things, whether it was people like Martin Luther King or Mother Teresa or anyone that you can think of. And think, well, what was their why? Because the why is the drive. The why is the emotion. And the emotion is like the petrol that gets the car to move. Now, if you think of willpower, because for me, willpower is finite. You only have a certain amount. Every single day, you will have a certain amount. It's like a battery. And what I'd love all of you to do is to go away after you listen to this and become more curious as to where does your willpower go? If you do something in life that you don't enjoy doing, if you're hard on yourself and you beat yourself up mentally, if you surround yourself with people who don't really inspire you, all of these things can drain your willpower. Even the way that you think, a lack of sleep can drain your willpower. What you eat. And sugar is one of the things which affects our willpower the most. So my goal for you is to not only understand, but for you to develop more of the will inside yourself to do the things that are really important to you. You know, every day we broadcast on Periscope and on Facebook, 7 a.m. in the UK. We are coaching people all over the world, helping them to live the life that they want. Even if you look at our logo for My365, you'll see that the My365 is in a speech bubble, helping people to create and talk a different story of where their life is. You see, if we don't change, then we will be a victim to what we've done in the past. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. And every week, we also launch a podcast on here where you hear from someone, in many cases, who has done something incredible. And when you listen to them, just be curious again as to what their why is. Now, of all of the studies that have been done on willpower, there are a few that really stand out. And one started in the late 60s, early 70s. It was the marshmallow experiment, the marshmallow test. And when I first heard about this, I was totally fascinated because I pictured myself in this experiment. And you can do the same thing. Just imagine this. If an adult said to you, a teacher in a school, or just said to you, listen, hey, look, here's a marshmallow. You can have this marshmallow right now, but I'm going to leave the room. And if you wait until I come back, you can have two. Now, what would you have done? Now, when I thought about this, I knew exactly what I would have done. The door would have closed and I would have looked at the marshmallow immediately. And I would have probably said something to myself like, oh, I want that, but I need to wait. And I'd start this conversation with myself. Most of us start talking to ourselves inside our head from the age of about 3 or 4 years old. This is what we call internal dialogue. And that voice would have kept talking to me. And I reckon after maybe 5 or 10 minutes, I would have eaten it. I would have tried so hard to not do it, but my internal dialogue. And by the way, that is another big thing which affects our willpower. What we say to ourselves inside our heads. What would you have done? Now, what's been fascinating about this study is that study still goes on today. In fact, if you go to YouTube and you type in marshmallow test, you can see some children going through this test themselves. And it's fascinating to look at the look on their faces. But what's been so fascinating is, I keep saying the word fascinating because it is truly fascinating to think, could I develop more willpower in myself? But a lot of these children have been followed up for the years that have followed. And from the original tests, many of those people that showed delayed gratification, their ability to say no, when they were followed up years later, many of those people have gone on to lead a much more successful life because they had the will to make better decisions. They were less likely to be divorced. They were less likely to have a criminal record or to be in debt. So what does that mean? Does it mean we're born, or is willpower made? Now, I don't necessarily know the answer to that, but I truly believe we can develop more willpower in ourselves by how we live our life. And in our My365 journal, one of the things, because we've put together a process to help people, because when you wake up in the morning, you'll have a certain amount. It's like a glass of water. It's like a battery. How you live your life will affect your willpower. If you get up in the morning and the first thing you do is when your alarm goes off, you press snooze and you say inside your head, oh God, I can't get up, another 5 minutes. And you do that 3 or 4 times. By the time you actually get up, and what gets most people up is their bladder hurts, they need to go to the toilet, already your willpower would have started to come down. Rather than waking up and saying to yourself, right, let's go, let's live this day. And if you got up and let's say you moved or you drank some water or you meditated, or you could start to actually boost your willpower. But what's so fascinating about this, and this is my desire for all of you, is to understand that there are certain things you can do to increase your willpower. But the thing is, to do most of those things requires some willpower to do them. But remember this, inspiration is for amateurs. I can't remember the first time I ever heard that, but I thought, what does that mean? And I heard the person talk about it a bit more. And he said, look, successful people do not wait to be inspired. They know that when they get started in doing the thing that maybe needed them to do some willpower in the first place, that the willpower comes, the inspiration comes. So there are people all over the world that are waiting for something to happen, for them to do something, rather than going, no, I'm going to do it. And the reality is very, very simple. If you move your body, you will increase your willpower. You'll make better decisions. If you eat well, if you eat lots of vegetables, if you eat good, whatever it is, nutritious food, your body will be at its optimal and you will have more willpower. If you think right, which a lot of people don't, they don't realize that when you think negatively, it can be equivalent to ingesting small amounts of arsenic. It could kill you over time. Stress kills. People say we are what we eat. I say we are what we think. There's a whole field of work called psychoimmunology, which is about how your immune system is affected by what you think. If you talk right, what you say out loud. We've done a whole load of work on this with the My365ers, our daily broadcasts, talking about how you speak. If you talk in terms of, oh, poor me, why is this happening? I'm not good enough. Rather than speaking at a level where you're saying, you know what, I'm in control. I can do this. The challenge is that if you decide to change, and if you say, you know what, I'm going to work on having more will, having more why. So ask yourself this, if there's anything in your life that you want to achieve, if you want to, in fact, let me ask you this question. What is the most expensive land in the whole world? Now, when I first heard this from someone else, I thought, I don't know, what is it? The oil fields? I don't know, what is it? And the person said it's the graveyard. And everyone in the room, you could tell in their head, they were probably going, the graveyard? What do you mean? Well, think about it. How many people's hopes and dreams, the books they wanted to write, the things they wanted to do, they didn't do and were buried with them. They didn't have the will. They didn't have the willpower to do what it takes. And I promise you, if you really work on every day, making sure that you master the fundamentals of eating the best that you can, drinking lots of water, getting enough sleep, just to, everyone knows when they lack sleep, how they make really poor decisions. You see, if you want to be like everyone else, then just be like everyone else and conform. If you want to be that better version of yourself, and create the life that you want, you've got to master the fundamentals. You see, My 365, when you look at our logo, it's My 365 in a speech bubble. It's all about helping people speak out the story of how they want their life to be in the future. If you believe your best days are ahead of you, then you really have a chance. If you believe that there's more potential to you than meets the eye, then you have a chance. If you can surround yourself with like-minded people, as Napoleon Hill talked about in the book Think and Grow Rich, the second principle of success is the mastermind alliance. Find people who also have aspirations to do more, to achieve more, and to create their life they want. You see, when you study success, which I have done, you'll realize that success leaves clues. Don't wait for the will to come. Develop the will by looking after yourself. Finally, let me just tell you about a study that was done in Germany where they put bleepers on people, and the bleepers went off randomly 7 times a day. And when they went off, these people had to record what they were thinking and feeling. So many people were trying to put themselves off from doing something, put themselves off from drinking a can of Coke, put themselves off from smoking a cigarette, put themselves off from checking Facebook for the 100th time in one day. All of these things can affect our willpower. If you make the decision, if you make that choice to be the better version of yourself, you can do it. Let's work on the fundamentals. Let's look to get more quality sleep. Let's look to eat that little bit better. Let's look to think that little bit clearer and a little bit more positively. Let's talk about the future. Let's talk about where we're going. The world needs you to be on your A game. The world needs you to make a difference to your life because you can make a difference to everyone else. Guys, I really appreciate you guys tuning into our podcasts. And I know so many of you enjoy the interviews we do with some incredible people. If you like them, if they impact you, tell people about them. Make a comment. We are now number 1 in a number of different categories all over the world because people are listening to this, enjoying them, and taking action. Thank you very much, guys. We'll see you soon on My 365 podcasts. Have a wonderful day. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please take a few moments to write a comment and share it. Let's get this information out there to as many people as possible. Stories really do change lives. So please, write some comments, share it, and let's change the world. I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and if you want more free inspiration to optimize your life so you can achieve your goals in all the different areas of your life, then visit my365.me. That's mi365.me and sign up to 365 days of free coaching with me, Pete Cohen. Thanks for listening and have an awesome day.